Open your mind to the conscious way, the way of conscious mindfulness. Hello and welcome. My name is Sifu Boggy. Sifu means guide, means somebody who points you along the way, who guides you on your path. Boggy is my martial art, my spiritual and my healing name, and it means the balancer between the chaos and the calmness. And for the last 40 years I have studied the Taoist arts. The Tao means the way, the path, the balance. And I have studied many things like Tai Chi, Tit-Ta, Tween-Na, Chinese massage, reflexology, acupressure, and many other different techniques and healing skills and abilities to help you supercharge yourself and ensure you never burn out, as well as increase your healing abilities and reduce anxiety and chronic pain. So that's what I do and who I am. What's this show all about? This show is the way of conscious mindfulness, a regular podcast show discussing spirituality and science, balancing and blending it with health and well-being and mind, body and spirit with a Taoist twist. What does the Tao mean? The Tao means the way, the path, the balance. Now, this isn't a normal show. Anything with me in it isn't normal. Each week we either have a subject or a guest. Today we have a very awesome guest waiting to come on, and our goal, our aim is to have an open discussion to help us all find new techniques, new skills, new ways to balance our very own personal way, path or Tao. And so without further, within 3, 2, 1, I timed it right. And good evening and welcome to the Way of Conscious Mindfulness. So good evening, Georgia. How are you doing?
Hi, good, thank you. How are you?
All is good. All is well. It's a busy night. I've got yourself, and then straight afterwards, I've got another show as well. So it's a busy night for the show. So welcome to the show. And the very first question is: so this is your show. This is the way of you. So what is your way? What is your personal Tao way, path, or balance?
Thank you. Thank you for having me on, and it's such an honor to be here and to be in space with you. Already when we connected, it just was lovely to be in your presence and hear all your magical little stories that you get up to. Um, so for me, my way is really about embodying these spiritual practices and living my life as a spiritual being in this human experience, and bringing those two together, as one, rather than either just like off in the aloof of being a spiritual person and ignoring our human experience. So it's about learning. For me, it definitely has been a learning to understand how we can be both and learn these practical skills, learn these spiritual skills, and then bring them into the world so that we can be better humans, be more compassionate, more loving, more caring. And I really feel that that's what I emanate throughout my everyday.
I think you do. I've watched a few of your lives, and I've seen your stuff, and I think you're definitely on that path. You're definitely there's I can't remember who said it, but there's a thing of somebody once said, make your life your adventure, and I think. You definitely lead. Or at the moment you're in Wales, aren't you? So the land of the dragons, and there's a lot of energy there, and a lot of I've been there quite a few, many times, and it's it's there's another saying. There's many sayings that well, in quantum physics, right at the very beginning of quantum physics, they suddenly realised they had 14 different scientists all saying 14 different things, and they went off to do their experiments, and all of them were right. And they thought, how can we all be right? And they went off to each other's experiment. And they said, well, yours is wrong and I'm right. And they realised, and it's right in it's in the information in the universe itself, is that the observer affects the experiment. This is the experiment. This is the adventure. This is your reality, and you can literally change it. So I think we do that quite well.
Yes, indeed, indeed. And we are, by being here, by sharing, we are helping others through that observer. They're observing and they're having an influence, actually, well, we're having an influence on them through being in the experience together. I'm not actually in Wales at this moment. I've come back, yes, unfortunately, but I have had some beautiful, profound experiences there. So one of my ways is really experiencing the veil lifting when I tune into the beings on this planet and other planets and different dimensions. And I really bring that through into artwork so people can actually visually see what's going on, and what, like we talk about codes. It's like the frequency, it's the patterns that make up our universe, or make up certain, well, how I perceive it as its consciousness. And it's us then understanding it and getting it feels like it's coming from the heart, as opposed to seeing it and then reading it and being able to read it as we would read a book that is written in English. So it's interpreted through the heart, but it also helps us to integrate that energy. I feel that we're going through a massive wave of energetic upgrades in our physical form, is alchemizing. So how I witness it and I experience it through my lens is that if you imagined all of our body, the water, everything is actually sacred geometry. So it's all these patterns, and we've been functioning on a certain, say, pattern, in a certain, say, sacred geometric patterns are within our field. And what these do is then it actually upgrades that patterning. And I think you might relate to this when you're doing Qigong. It's like you're creating more patterns, aren't you, in your field? So it's kind of works in like a different medium in a different way. You may have a different perception of this, but this is how I piece everything together. So that's where the sound, the light language sound, comes from. It's creating these new patterns, and the same with the symbols that we can reach from different dimensions and draw them. When we see them and visualize them, it's creating that alchemy to allow that to be received within our own form, our own body. We can change this matter that we're made out of into like a higher frequency, if you want to call it higher, but it's like a different octave that we can work on and function on.
Yeah. I mean, I very much, one of my passions, obviously, is Qigong. And Qigong itself is like for those who know, like Reiki or like symbols, Qigong is a living symbol. You become the symbol. When you do a Qigong, you're literally moving your body into a certain position. And they know, like, when we do things, when you think, feel and do all at the same time, it affects all the energy in your body. Now, people say, energy. Well, I love science and spirituality, because science, especially quantum physics, is literally proving the ancient knowledge, and has been, and that's where, one of the signs for me that we're in a time of awakening, where you've got science supposed to be very to the fact and very factual. It's actually proving they detected the meridians over 20 years ago. They detected a field in our heart, literally called the biomagnetic electric field. Underneath our skin there is a thing called the fascia, and the fascia literally stores light. we are already light beings. Underneath our skin, literally the fascia is like almost like the pith in an orange. It actually stores light, and they've only detected it in the last 30 years because they could look at people while still alive. Because when they were looking at the dead, they couldn't see it because they weren't alive, so the energy wasn't passing through. So there are whole many things, and you saying about sacred geometry. Sacred geometry, they know that sacred geometry is within the patterns of a sunflower seed, it's within the patterns of our DNA in our skin. Sacred geometry is everywhere. They found what quantum physics freaked them out was they found the fabrics. They found circles and triangles and spheres. They found the symbols of quantum physics within space itself. It's everywhere. It's in everything. And yeah, we are literally, when you think of matter itself, it's like the only reason I can't put my hand through that wall, well, I can, but the only reason I can't put my hand allegedly through that wall is because my atoms are spinning at the same frequency as those, and therefore they won't go in. But you've got, again, scientists that have been levitating stuff because they've figured out the frequency. They know that everything's literally frequency, it's literally energy. And even in science, they say again that our eyes are only actually seeing 1% of what actually exists. They're not talking about in space, they're talking about literally in your room. Only 1% of what you're seeing is actually what's there. There's so much more there. There's so much more in ultraviolet and infrared that we're not necessarily seeing that actually exists, but we can see it because in MRI scans they actually detect it. We actually have the ability to see infrared and ultraviolet, even pick up the magnetic field of the Earth, but there's something stopping us in our subconscious to remembering this information, and that's what they discovered again, going back into the 90s. It's all there. It's all there. You just got to look, and that's what I think it's about.
Yeah. And I feel like that even comes back around to like what I'm doing, because I feel that what I'm doing is unlocking that remembrance and that ability to experience that, because I'm seeing those things. I'm able to, it's through a mind's eye. There's a lens, but it's breaking down. So I'm like a little bit ahead of the game, and I'm going, okay, here they are. Like, now you see them, and then it allows people to open that avenue up. And another really cool scientific, I suppose, studies that have been out there, which comes back around, is water. We know about the water experiments and bringing just positive words and thoughts and intentions, and that is having an effect on our bodies because we are made up of water. So imagine, again, you're working with quantum codes to connect into your body. That's going into your body because you're then receiving that. And that's where the upgrade happens, because, you've been, not necessarily everybody, but we may have been bringing our attention to, say, like TV shows that are lowering our vibration. We're around lots of magnetic interference and all of these different things are just our life experiences in general through our childhood that we need to repair and heal, but they can actually change our geometric structure, even of our water. Which then keeps us as like a lower vibrational resonance. It's not as living life force. So then to upgrade that is to focus in these high dimensional frequency codes or mandalas with beautiful geometric patterns, which we see as 3D, flat on an iPad or a paper. And they are 3D, they are spheres, they're moving, and that then starts to happen and move within you. So yes, you can't necessarily see the movement when you look at the paper, but it is happening. That's happening energetically in that other lens, in that other world, that other realm.
Just like I say, what I've studied for the last 40 years, and I studied from Taoists, and for Buddhists, and they talk about the ancient drawings, the ancient pictures, and all the symbols that you see. What they talk about, that you are meant to sit there, focus on them, meditate on them, and even like if they have names, you chant the names, and over a period of time, you know, a little experiment like for everybody, you know, like if you say one word over and over and over and over again, after a while it starts sounding weird. There's something about it, but it's coming alive. Well, you're actually charging the word. So when you say a word over and over again, the reason it starts to sound weird is because you're actually creating vibration to it. And the whole idea of all the symbols, so all this, like the flower life, the Tai Chi symbol, or yin yang as people call it, we see them in 2D, but the ancients didn't. They saw it in 3D. They saw that there weren't circles, there were spheres. They're not the macabre. It's not a triangle, it's a pyramid. It's two pyramids actually spinning. And the whole idea is that how their understanding, or like part of the test, was that when you see it on the paper, you're seeing just a snapshot of it. But then you're meant to meditate on it and focus on it, and then it comes alive and it becomes a video, and you see it moving and twisting. And so within the ancient things is that when the student described the yin yang symbol, the Tai Chi symbol, it's actually a ball, and it goes one way and then it turns in on itself and goes the other. The people go, you have seen it now, you know. And the whole idea was it's part of the test that you actually see these, like the flower life. There's 64 circles, 64 spheres that actually turn in on themselves and create the pterygial field or Torah field, which is the field that's actually in our heart. The Bible field in our heart is a Torah, and they know this. They know that in the epigenetics, the science of emotions and health, that your emotions affect your health. That heart field, when you're happy, that expands. When it expands, everything becomes stronger. When you're scared and afraid and living in fear, you know, because of terrorism or bird flu or banana flu or whatever next virus comes up, then that field shrinks. And then we know when we're tired or scared, there's more chance we get cold, there's more chance we get ill, there's more chance we function as well. So the emotions affect the energy, but we are literally energy, we are literally frequency, and when we raise our vibration, we raise the frequency.
Yeah, definitely. And I really like what you said there about the images, because this is really, like when I said about mandalas, and that's where it really originates from. You know, this is ancient stuff that we're talking about. A lot of people kind of like, oh, it's modern, even the light language. It's like, this is ancient, like it's always been, but within like the Western culture, of course, that's more lost. And you know, I think even art in general, it's lost, or it's narrowed down into a specific way. It's very sort of, you know, you're doing these beautiful pictures, you know, portraits, and it doesn't really have this kind of spiritual aspect to it. And I thought it was really funny as well, I'll just mention, because I thought it always made me laugh, that a few years ago my mum had been to a history museum where there was all this ancient Buddhist texts and robes that had all this like symbolism and artwork on it, and she'd come back and she was like, I think you're like Green Tara, like you must be embodied, you know, you do the same symbols, all those symbols. And I was like, it's not just me, like I am channeling it. It has come through from like other lifetimes and everything. I've not learned it here in this lifetime per se, but it's not, you know, that is already, it's just showing people like it's already there.
Yeah.
And I haven't even had to look at it to obtain it. It's because it's already, you know, I suppose in the cache as well, we could say.
Well, you know, again, that's the thing. It's almost like that picture again. It's like, you know, oh, I didn't have to look at it. You don't have to, because you are it. It is, you know, it is, you know, in science. So in science, it only takes around about 500 to 800 case studies for science normally to say, yes, this is true, this is fact, this is real. There are 20,000 case studies of reincarnation, of literally them doing private detectives. A child saying, "I remember being a 90-year-old man or a 90-year-old woman in another village," and then literally finding private detectives going there, finding that information, then checking to see if that child had been told that information. And there's over 20,000 cases or in China, Africa, and India alone, saying the existence of reincarnation. So there's already evidence that says, that we live over and over again. We pop up. All religions, even Christianity, originally, and even the Bible was changed in the 1400s, and they took a lot of stuff out. But originally, all the different religions all over the world all talked about reincarnation, all talked about you live again and again and again. And it's this, and so you're not learning. I always say this to my students: you're not learning, you're remembering. It's already there, and it's like this ascension. You're not ascending, you're going back, because that's the universe, heaven, light, source. That's where you came from. That's already what you were, and you're returning to it. You're not going to it. So, but yeah, like you say, this whole thing of now we call it light language. My Sufis called it light code, and it goes back over 20,000 years at least. So one of the things I'm trained as is Dragon Dog Shaman, and Dragon Dog Shaman. So those who see that lot, what they call the lion dog, but it's actually not a lion. If you look at it, they don't have lions in China. They never had lions in China. It's a dragon. It's a dragon's face and dragon's dog. But under its paw, there's a ball. Now, with the ones in China, they are the flower of life. You literally see it. It is actually the circles of the flower of life, a 3D representation. And in the old Chinese knowledge, which they don't necessarily like talking about, is that they had 3 star beings that gave them knowledge. One was the dragon dogs, and from the dragon dogs you've got the flower life, and you've got the code and the information, and that's where the dragon dog shaman come from. You had the tall blue ones, which actually were blue avians, which were exactly the same looking as Ra, from Egypt. So Ra, and again, in Egypt, or I've been to Egypt, and they say, in the West, we say, oh, they got 14 gods. No, they're not gods. They're 14 levels of attunement, 14 levels of different of perception. They never called them gods. It was the Westerners that called them gods and turned them into gods. And then you got the tall whites. And the tall whites, there's two, but one of the tall whites were around about 12 foot tall, blue eyes and blonde hair. Like the Nordics. So the Chinese don't like talking too much about them, because they've got tall Caucasians within their history, within their ancient knowledge. But the whole idea is that you have this information. Now, I've got friends who actually are pagans. And when I started looking at the pagan stuff, I actually started seeing ancient Chinese symbols within the pagan stuff. So the pagan, the Chinese, the Hindu, when you actually look, all have similar symbols, all talk about similar things. That information came from one source and then spread outwards. And that's the thing. And again, like you say, like you're remembering stuff and you're bringing it up because it's always been there. It's never gone away. It's just that we had forgotten it, and it's now time to remember.
Yeah, and so it's interesting because you mentioned about like the past life thing, because I mean I've had past life memories since I can remembering. I'd always have these dreams, and I'd be telling my mum at like 3 years old, and she was just like, okay, okay, like telling her about how I died in different circumstances. Probably sounds a bit strange, but she was pretty cool, like just held that. But going back to the codes as well, and the symbols, so that the symbols that are spread out within different cultures and how they all intertwine, is because I guess essentially we could all bring it back to source. When we really, open up and see we can see that they're all coming from one place. That's how I see it, and it's just like they're just streaming in, and then they will be used in different ways to different cultures and religions, you know, and spiritual practices, because of course they are also multidimensional. So maybe, yeah, that's that different perspective from one code that was received from another. And then I remember when I studied Reiki myself, and it was kind of interesting with the codes, with or the symbols that they show you there, because then I started to learn that, okay, other people had different symbols. And I was like, oh, so I don't really have to stick to these symbols. And that's when like things started to really open up, because everything started to come from me. You know, I wasn't trying to draw certain ones that I was given. And that was really interesting. And I was just thinking, I don't know, if I could show people maybe an image, and then that would give people a bit of context as well to what we're talking about. So this is one that I recently shared, and I hope it's okay with the light, because it's quite a light image itself.
Mm.
And it's just, you can see that through my visual perception that it's like this symbol comes forward, and if I was to go in, it would take me to a place. Yeah. So they're like portals to different dimensions and realms.
Yeah.
And I can create them specifically for people as well, so that they're able to retrieve information from, you know, their soul and their self, so they can integrate those, you know, codes. Again, even codes doesn't really, like, it's the most common word, but for me they're almost like notes, because everything's a song and it's a symphony. So it's like this, we call it a code, but it's like, or it's a code to your song, and they're all the notes inside, you know. So these are just some of the images, and this is from a particular like water type being. So I'm able to then receive that information and that consciousness, and then bring that in, so people can then witness and experience that energy. You know, they're really able to feel it and remember that within themselves. And that might just happen on a cellular level, and it can also happen through, if I see it as like pockets of time for people, so they might witness it, and then when they're ready, it will integrate. It doesn't necessarily always integrate if you're not in the right space energetically to happen, but you've seen it, experienced it, so it will happen when it's ready for that soul to do so. Yeah, so that was just a few images, just to put that into context of what we're seeing when we're visualizing I want to call them portals. So like they are portals, or even gateways, you might want to call them. Is that something you experience as well?
Yeah. So you know, so within my philosophy, within Taoism, so there's a saying I say a lot, and I used to get told off for it because people used to see it in a certain way, but there is no good or bad, there just is. Now, when 20 years ago, people, yeah, but what about war? What about this? And because they were seeing things from a very confrontational point of view. But everything, it just, so what that means is that however you learn, it doesn't matter. And because you change over time and the information changes. The interesting thing with Reiki, in the East, it's taught in a different way. They don't use symbols in the East. In fact, Usari himself only gave symbols to people who didn't understand what's called the Kotodama. And Kotodama means sacred tone. But again, it doesn't actually mean the sound, it means the feeling within the sound. So, like we were saying about saying a word over and over and over again, or having a song, and then, or doing a mantra, and you do that for 10 minutes and then stop, and then that feeling, you know, that buzzing that you get, that's the tone, that's the Kotodama. And and when people couldn't feel the Kotodama, then Usari gave them a symbol. And he said, right, now go and practice on that, go and meditate on that until you feel the tone. And that's where it changed. So Reiki went in a slightly different way in the West than it does in the East. But again, there is no good or bad. It just is. The whole idea is eventually is just learning that, like you said, these things unfold, and it's like the fractals that you see, you know, the great pictures. But again, you're only seeing it as 2D. Think of that as 3D, or even like 5D, where, you know, you actually got layers within layers, and as you delve in, you go through it, but eventually you come to the same pattern, but in a different way, from a different side. And that's the whole thing. That it's all information, it's all energy. But there's this interesting thing in Chinese language. Each word has about 5 or 6 different meanings. So therefore, when you're saying something, there's different points of view to that word. So this is why the book called the Tao Te Ching, which is like the Taoist philosophy, there's over 30 different variations, translations of that book, because each word has 4 or 5 different meanings. There's 4 or 5 different versions of just one whole text. And then they also, in China, when you read at the back of the book. You go from the right to the left, and you read in columns. And the whole idea is because it triggers a different side of the brain, and it opens up the information in a different way. And this is what it now is the time, is that and the issue with words put things in boxes. But how do you put energy in a box with difficulty? You know, how do you put a swarm of bees into a box? Very carefully. You know, it's everything. It's meant to be alive. It's meant to move. It's meant to flow, and that's the point. You know, we're talking about stuff that changes and grows, just like you change and grow. You know, you're not the same as you were 10 years ago. You're not the same as you will be in 10 years' time. The essence is there, but you'll grow and you expand and you flow and you have new experiences, and that's what it's all about.
Yeah, it is. It truly is about expanding and growing, and that's what we're all doing is this. And that's why I feel that art is such a beautiful access point to receiving that and expanding and growing, because it's creative. And life force is creative. Life force is what creates. So when we're in that motion, and I suppose it can come through in movement or sound or just doing something that's expressive. It's a form of expressing, which when we express, we're creating something, because it's getting it out there. It's out of the mind, or it's out of our field and out into this reality.
Yeah, 100%. And it's that. I think, you know, it's like when people, you know, first hear like, you know, light language or light code, they say, "Oh, what does it mean?" It means everything. It means nothing, and it means everything. It's not, you know, people try to translate something, but it's, you know, there's an interesting thing within science. When they looked, when the medical science tried to look for the location of our consciousness, when they looked in MRI scans, they suddenly noticed that when people were like thinking and feeling, the information wasn't coming from inside; it was coming from outside. Our consciousness is not inside our body; it's on the outside. You know, we call it your aura, your spirit, but your consciousness, it controls this body like puppets to a string, which is maybe where that original idea concept came from, was the whole point that we are actually, our consciousness is formless, it's shapeless, it's energy. And there's an interesting thing, I don't like using the word soul, because soul is Latin from solium, which means body of breath. So you're trapped in a body of breath, that your soul is in here, but you're not in here. We already know from science that you are on the outside, controlling this from the outside. You're looking in, you're peering in. That's why some people say it feels like I'm peering in through glasses, or when I look through these eyes, it looks like I'm looking through from a pair of glasses or a box. And it's like, you are, because you are on the outside. Your consciousness is shapeless and formless and never ending. It can expand in all directions. And that's what, with this light code, and that's what we're trying to translate. That's what we're really trying to, is this formless, expansive being that we are. We're trying to sort of understand it, and we're trying to sort of express it. How can you express the unexpressible? How can you say something in 10,000 words or less that has not enough words to express it? But as any good Darren should say, hey, what do I know?
Well, the thing is, it's like, I mean, we're saying things like the words, it's like, yeah, soul, but then to even have that thought and thinking that means that, you know, it's going to trap me, and it's that then triggers this sort of fear around words. And I think, especially in the spiritual community, we're becoming more and more sensitive around what we say and how we speak. And, you know, there's always caution, and then it's always switching and changing. And, you know, that's where this beauty of light language is because it bypasses all of that. So it's like, okay, so someone wants to use the word soul because they don't see it as an entrapment. Because they don't see themselves as entrapped, or that that's even possible. Another might want to take on that as like a belief system and will at all caution avoid it. And, you know, we're all then going, oh, we feel like really heady and it's all like messy. What do we do? And this is my calling. It's just, okay, I'm just going to sit. I'm going to be present with my being, my inner being, and I'm going to express from that space. I'm going to express from my heart. And that's where I feel like light language just can really transmute all of the illusions that are within the language that we speak, and bring more clarity and peace and inner peace through us.
Yeah,
Well.
that's what it's all about at the end of the day. You know, and yeah, there's lots of sayings always come to, you know, coming from a light heart, light-heartedness, you know, is coming from light, you know. Remember, the fascia, you're full of light, you're already light. And yeah, it's, you know, it's one thing I'm sort of, you know, but sooner or later I do silly stuff or whatever. And it's the whole idea of, you know, coming from that play, coming from that sacred child, allow yourself just to play with it. Don't take yourself or anything else too seriously. And especially in the last couple of years, you know, we sort of keep getting encouraged to focus on fear and right. There's, you know, you can always find something to be scared of. You can always find something to be fear of. But if you can find something to be scared of, you can also find something that will bring you joy and love. And why not do that? You know, focus on the expansion, focus on the love, focus on the light. And I think that's, for me at least, that's what I want to do myself, and that's what I want to help others to do, is to focus on love and light, and focus on finding ways to play. Yes, do what you need to get through a situation, but then always can't go back to the light, always go back to that love.
Yeah, and being more compassionate to ourselves, because there are parts of us that aren't going to feel so love and light. And it's not to like banish that and like, you know, and be dissociated with it as well, isn't it? We can put that energy into that experience when we focus our awareness with love. I thought was really interesting. I just want to say, like, someone said something earlier about, you know, I suppose they're speaking mainly about like channeling and how this kind of energy is going to go through that filter. So I'm imagining they're talking about the artwork and how, of course, the artwork is coming through. It's coming through my filter. It's going to come through anybody else's who is, you know, doing artwork and creating things that are, you know, reaching certain visionary experiences. And my thing is that is always, of course, when I'm creating artwork personally, I'm setting intentions. I'm holding that space to bring through the purest energy that I could possibly do through my own filter, of course. However, what's more beautiful is when we can actually teach and show the way for others to do the same. And it'd be beautiful to see others doing this as well for themselves and starting to receive that and create that. And that's where I was speaking about creating that art and expressing what we express through our filters. And we can observe it and we don't have to take it on. we can observe it, and we can feel that that's something that will assist and resonate with us. And that's the beauty of, you know, our sovereignty and our choice in the matter.
Oh, yeah.
So I just thought that was a really beautiful like comment, and I just wanted to mention on that, because it's definitely about, you know, having that intention and doing that inner work with yourself. I think when people who are doing this kind of, I don't even want to call it work, but when they're expressing this kind of creativity and being of service in this way, there's a lot that happens within our own journey to allow us to be able to hold this information and gift this information to the world, to humanity. I feel that, you know, I feel that I've been gifted this because I have the ability to hold a pure channel to bring through that information, and I wouldn't bring it through, and I would definitely not share that out into the world if I didn't know that in my whole being that it was of pure heart.
Mhm.
That's like so important.
And well, it's also it's also important is that, you know, I said already, there is no good or bad. There just is that everything that you've been through is part of your learning, is part of your expression. You know, the whole idea when people see something as bad or dark, it's like, yeah, but what came after that? You know, you went through that, and what did you learn? How did that teach you? You know, so you know there is this idea, you know, within Buddhism and Taoism that all the people you meet, even the horrible ones, are teachers, are sifus. Everybody takes a role, and everybody's, you know, and it's this whole thing, or you know, the game of life, or life is a stage, and we're mere actors upon it. Is that we're all playing these roles, and we're all experiencing, you know, these certain things, and you know, and from that you learn different stuff. I was bullied as a kid for being different at school, and I know through psychology, and I know through experience, some people can take that bullying and become you know great teachers and will learn from that experience in a positive way. Some will take that bullying and become bullies themselves, and you know it's a journey. It's a, you know, what you learn from that is up to you. But it's that whole thing of what I'm sort of hinting at is the goal of, yeah, you know, I focus on love and light, but I also have non-judgment on other people's journey is other people's journey. You know, I don't judge them for their path. I just go, well, you know, I send you love and light. At the same time, you're not going to affect me because I just push you out of the way. But it's that whole idea of, you know, things only affect you if you let them affect you. You know, and also is that thing as you grow and expand in the spiritual community. So in every community, people spend too much time worrying what other people think about them. I don't care about what other people think about me. That's not my responsibility. That's not down to me. What other people think is down to them. What I think is down to me. And it's that whole idea of focus on you, expand you, let go of your barriers. Don't worry about other people's. You know, it's not your mission to worry about other people's. Even as a Sifu, I don't teach, I guide. I point the finger. If you take that information and you go with it, awesome. If you don't take that information, you don't go with it, awesome. You know, it is what it is. But it's my job just to shine my light and expand and grow, help people or guide people who need it. And that's how I do it in healing as well, is that I help people, I give people the techniques to help themselves. And that's the goal. That's my goal, at least, is to show you, point you in that way. But it's the only person I can actually expand and grow is me. It's down to me. Everything is always, in essence, down to you. But if you ask or if you look for ideas and clues, you will find them.
Yes, and that's how you like really thrive in this world, when we like allow the judgments to just like be pushed to the side and just keep going for what you want to do in your life and how you want to be and experience and express from that space, and not allow that to filter in and change your course of your reality. I mean, that's been an experience for me, because I haven't always been like that. I have let judgments from others prevent me from truly being how I want to be and living how I want to live, you know. And I've had to pick that all away to actually become myself, to be living in my authenticity. And yeah, I think we do kind of have a quite judgmental kind of soup of like, are people doing the right thing? Is this right or is that right? In specifically, I suppose, in the broad spectrum of spirituality, because there's so many different modalities, there's so many different techniques or different ways of guiding people, that we can tend to like look at that and think that it's either one or the other. But as you can demonstrate, that it's just about doing what comes from your heart and expressing that, and that's your truth. It's your truth. And if it doesn't resonate, then people can go and find what does. And that's where we find ourselves, is through just seeking that, just looking from that lens and experiencing life from that place, rather than looking and judging. If it feels judging, then just move on. Just go and find what works.
The judging is part of, is a lesson that, to let go of judgment is a lesson on its own. But the judgment is that whole thing of, well, I'm this, I'm in this form, you're in that form, and things seem separate. When in quantum physics, back in the 70s, 1974, they wanted to prove once and for all, are we separate or are we unified? And they looked within science, within the atoms, and they found what's called the field. And the field is this wave of energy that connects every single atom with every other atom. So in 1974, in quantum physics, they basically proved that reincarnation exists, that ESP exists, that telepathy exists. They proved, because of this information of the field, which proved everything's connected. And so that leads to, so there is no wrong way. There is no one way. There is no I'm right and you're wrong. There are millions of flavors out there. Which is the best flavor? The one that you like the most. There are millions of songs out there. Which is the best song? The one you like the most. It's down to you. It's what you like. And ascension, enlightenment is the same thing. It's what works for you. And it's what works for you right now. There's a whole thing in Qigong, is that Qigong is for everybody, but not everybody thinks they're for Qigong. And the Qigong that you do today might be different to the one you do tomorrow and the one you do in 10 years' time, but it's still Qigong. And so it's this whole idea of, is that if you allow yourself, and that's the truest, it's you allowing yourself. You think it's other people allowing you. It's not. It's you. You allowing yourself, being the courage. Then you need to allow yourself to be what you need to be right now. Do the things what you need to do right now. Go in the direction that you need to go right now, and live in the now. Live in this moment, because that's the important one.
I love that. That was powerful.
Any good Taoist should say, hey, what do I know? Because it's that whole thing of, don't let your ego, make you, go off course. Because, again, science, they actually know that the ego is in the forebrain. We have 60 to 90,000 thoughts. So ego, or in China, they call it monkey mind. Monkey mind is in the forebrain, that racing thoughts. Our intuition is in our heart. That bioelectric field, they actually found brain cells in the heart, and we can literally feel. So when they talk about your inner guide, when Taoism, one of your inner guides is your heart. Listen to your heart, focus on the situation. What's the outcome of me doing this? If it feels expansive and good, that's a yes, go for it. If it feels contracting and you're nervous or worried and you're from here, then it's like, not now, not now. And that's the whole thing. It's never yes or no. It's, that'd be good, that'd be favourable now, or maybe not so favourable now. And that's the whole idea. It's that we just got to play more and listen to our hearts and do what's right for us. and that's tough in a world where you have parents and teachers and everybody saying you should do this. There's always an interesting thing on advice. People would like to give advice, and they go, you didn't do what I said. I thought it was advice, not a command.
Yeah, that's very true, isn't it? Yeah. And that's what I think. I don't think we have that so much in this sort of side of life. Maybe when in our childhood we kind of get told what to do, and even throughout school it's very regimented, and then we go out into the world and it's time to express. It's time to just be, and you know, there's sort of conditionings. I suppose we have to then unpick that for ourselves. And going back to just see someone wrote something like the human condition, you know, disrupting our true divinity, and it's like, yeah, like that's what happens kind of throughout that time, and then we're coming back now to our true divinity, and that's what coming back into the heart is. And it's a journey, isn't it? But I feel like it happens for us to learn ourselves. That's the whole remembrance process. It's re-remembering that of ourselves, and I think that's a really beautiful experience. I find it really beautiful. I find it really amazing when I lose myself, and when I even get into like a difficult situation, or I'm over in my head and I'm thinking too much, and then like my divinity, my consciousness just drops in, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, yes, of course. This is who I am. This is what I am. Everything that can all just fall away. Mm-hmm. I'm pure love. I'm pure love. Oh my goodness. And it's just this beautiful realization. So, and it's lovely that can even happen again and again. You're like, oh my gosh, I forgot. I'm pure source, or God, you know. Oh my goodness, having this human experience. Like, I love those moments. I'm even having it right now, you know. It's just like, you know, we're having all this conversation, we're wrapped up in this conversation together, sharing all this information, and it's like, oh my gosh. And it's like God talking to God, sharing this to all of God, having all these separate human experience. Wow, gosh, isn't this amazing? We're all just communicating together. We're all tuning in to remember this moment together.
Yeah, and that's what that's what it's all about. It's you know, it's that. It's letting just letting that expansion, allowing things to expand. I mean, the whole thing of light and darkness gives light something to stretch out to, but it also gives it proportion. You can see where you are and how far you've been, and yet at the same time, well, you're everywhere all at once anyway. But you know, it's this whole thing. It's just all going on, baby. It's all good. It's all cool, and it's just, you know, allowing. You know, this is where I I think a lot of the time, I think people think I'm an introvert hiding as an extrovert. I always have. And oh yeah, but you know, you love talking this. And actually, I love sitting in the corner, being quiet, the energy, because energy is pure communication. Energy, light code, light language, is that when, you know, like, and you know, when you're doing the sounds and the song, it expands in all directions. There is no, you know, there is no where it can not go. It can do it what it needs to. It expands. So when I sit there in corners, and that's what in the FT 500 index businesses, I was paid to be a charger. I'd sit in the corner and I'd just be either move my hands or just focus my hands out, a little bit like Reiki. You more have static hands. In Shinchi Chair, which is Chinese Reiki, you actually move the hands. You're flowing because you're breathing. You flow that energy. And, you know, when I'm just doing that, when I'm just firing energy, then it's expressing beyond words. It's expressing beyond sound or light. It's just expression in energy. And I love doing that. Like, I love massaging, because when I massage, I'm listening to a person, and I'm hearing, because people will go, oh, you're psychic. How did you know this? Your body talks. You know, your body, all right, energy. It's talking all the freaking time. I don't need to open this. Energy talks, and you know, then energy talks all the time. But you have to listen. But it's not listening with this. It's listening with this.
Yeah, yeah, whole body. It's like everything, isn't it? I used to be a massage therapist actually, and people would say that like, "How did you know that that knot was there?" Or "How did you know to go like just like it's just intuition. I'm just flowing, and I'm communicating with that body, and I'm in tune, and I'm like, oh, this is what you need. This is what you need today. And this is how we go with all energy work. Everything is energy. Everything is energy. So every kind of work that you do, every kind of activity that you partake in is energetic. So it's like, what intentions are you going to bring into that? How are you going to perform with that energy? You know, it's that intention that you drive with it. So yeah, like if you're doing like a more physical activity and you put that intention that you want to perform to your best and bring the most purest loving energy to this act, then it's like that's what will happen, you know, even from like, you know, making your bed. If you do that with that loving intention, it's like it probably will feel like the best experience of your day. It's just bringing that awareness to that emotion, that feeling, that sensation. So it's like it's the gratitude, isn't it? It's the love that we bring in, that joy. When we bring that frequency into those experiences, then it creates more of that. However, you know, if we're going in, oh, I'm really tired today, I don't really feel like doing this, this is going to be difficult. It's going to feel like that. That's just like how it works, because, as you know, it's like the whole consciousness is everything. So it's like, what are you going to pick into? Like, you can pick into consciousness that is like really cool and has like loads of amazing information and is going to expand you and make you feel those joyful experiences. Or you could tap into a consciousness that is going to drive you in a direction that isn't serving you. You don't want to unconsciously tap into that. So it's about having that conscious awareness of it, of what you're tapping into. That's where we talk about conscious awareness. It's like, because you're aware of what you're working with. It's not just that consciousness is all good. It's like consciousness is everything, and you have to really be attuned to it to make sure that, you know, you're flowing with what's for your highest and greatest good and for humanity as well. I think that's where like humanity has gone a little bit off skew with, because it's not driving, it's not in that force. Everyone's in this collective soup of frequency and tapping into a certain consciousness that's not functioning in a way that's actually harmonious with us and the whole of Earth. It's not harmonious with nature. So it's like driving our energy back into that awareness of the harmonious energies, the energies of nature. Because nature, and this is I always observe with nature, with trees and plants and everything like that, all of that is in harmony because it's always in that conscious awareness of what is doing. It knows it's a tree, it functions as a tree, and it does that. Whereas humans are kind of like, I'm a human, I'm a separate being, and don't know what's going on. I've got to try and find my way, scrabble my way around life. Oh, that person's doing something, I'm going to try and attach myself to that. And it's like, oh, that's not working, because you're not holding into the bigger picture of yourself, which is like nature.
Yeah, 100%. You know, it's a whole. You know, the name of the show is a little bit of a joke. You know, it's a you know, the way of conscious mindfulness is that, well, we're all conscious, but are you mindful? Are you mindful of your consciousness? And is that, you know, is that whole idea of, you know, in nature it just is. It doesn't try to be something. It is. The wind is the wind. The trees are the trees. I always, you know, I always say, because in Buddhism and Taoism, especially in Taoism, you don't just reincarnate into humans, you reincarnate into anything and everything. And I definitely say I've been trees before. I know I've been trees before, you know, and I have a great affinity, you know, with the trees. In fact, funny enough, Qigong, there's a whole set of Qigongs called Zhamzhong, which means stand like a tree, and you actually become a tree. You know, but the whole idea is that, yeah, it's we tend to, you know, as humans, we tend to see things separate, and you know, this has been the whole thing. And when you separate yourself, you disconnect. That's the key. Is that when you separate, when you no longer see yourself as part of this, or even when you try to disconnect, when you separate yourself from your past or from the things you don't like, you're disconnecting from the source. You're actually disconnecting from the universe. You know, the whole thing of shadow work is in Taoism. It's like breathe in, breathe out. That shadow work. You know, is breathe in, let all the chi in, breathe in the light, the love, breathe in everything you do want. Breathe out the char, everything you no longer need. But you're still connected. Everything's all connected. But when we try to separate ourselves or distance ourselves, and that's the biggest, you know, thing within all of this, is that when people try to separate themselves from that past or their trauma, you actually are disconnecting from the whole universe, and you're disconnecting from the source. You need to actually understand and connect to that and embrace that in a certain way, and understand why it's part of who you are, and learn from that. You grow through it, and you grow past it, and you see that all is one. You see all the light and the love, and that's the thing, is that, you know, it's not about separating ourselves from anything. It's actually embracing everything and connecting to it, and because in everything is the Buddhists love the saying, pardon my French, that that shit is gold. Is that in you know, in shit it turns into manure turns into gold. So everything, there is beauty in everything, there's love and light in everything, and it's about embracing it all, even the things that you're not that fond of, because by embracing it and finding a way through it, and that's why, you know, like a tree is not scared of an axe, you know, because it's a tree, and if it turns into a chair, then it's a chair. You know, it is what it is. If that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, we don't know. Maybe the trees might be a little bit upset, I think, if you start chopping them all down.
Well, they don't particularly like it at the time, do they? But, you know, if it's going to happen, it's going to. Well, yeah, there's an interesting
honouring contract in there that says that they're going to become a chair.
Yeah, I think so. I think, you know, yes, but you know, it's things. You know, things are, and it's just about, you know, flowing with it, and that within the Dragon Dog, there's this thing of the first sort of meditation they do is you get a glass of water, and you focus on the water until in your mind you see every single atom, the H2O. You see every single part of that water. You see the molecules of the water, and then you look, and they say, now look deeper. And you look into that molecule, and you see all the energy that's in there. Now look deeper, and you see the energy that's in the energy. Now look deeper, until you keep looking and looking until you realize that everything is conscious, everything is energy, everything's just blended into one.
Yeah, amazing. That's a cool one for everyone to go out and try. Meditating with water like that.
Yeah, yeah. It's why I love I moved down to the coast, to Worthing. My surname is actually Brighton. Everybody gets this. Everybody says, "Oh, you live in Brighton," and for like years, no, my surname is Brighton. But you know, it's Bargy is my given name, my healing name. But I actually moved, just to confuse things. I actually moved down here to the coast in June. But I love the sea, because the sea for me, I always say the sea is my punching bag. It's my coffee. It's my confidant. It's everything. You know, the ocean like wakes me up. It can charge me. I work in London half the week, and I come back here. 5 minutes down at the ocean, everything's gone. You know, everything's all groovy again. Everything's all supercharged. And that's that connection. But I can also do that on a mountain and in a forest. The ocean is my favourite because that churning of the energy, that constant moving, you know, waves. The sea on the beach is a breath. It comes in, goes out. Sometimes it goes in very roughly and it's very furious, and sometimes very gentle and quiet. But it always just goes in and comes out.
Like natural water sounds for like your meditation, and I guess it's probably really nice to do your practices out there in nature on the beach and stuff. I can imagine that being really nice.
I mean, 100%. I mean, these shows like at night time, because I do a lot of shows for America, and the ones I do like 11 o'clock at night, it's like we're going down to the sea. And you'll always hear the sea in the background. Sometimes that's all you hear if it's really quite strong. But it's that whole idea of that ocean, that sound is very connecting. But it's everything just it flows. You know, you said earlier, we're all water, and you know, just it's a great reminder to be near the sea and just have that. It just keeps flowing. It just keeps growing, and you know, things come and go. You know. The world, you know, in 1,000 years, that scenario has changed over and over again, but the ocean's still there. It's still going.
Yeah, and you know, water does hold that consciousness. And going back to experiments to observe what we know through our inner mind per se, is that it has geometric patterns. You know, so it's like, and all of that is structures that we want to take on. You know, that water that's really beautiful in nature is going to hold really lovely information to like go into our body, into our cellular memory within our cells. You know, I don't know how much we can go into that, but of like tap water and things like that it has all these things in it that changes the structure of water. And even like the water that we have filtered, I mean, I filter my water, but then it doesn't actually have the ionic elements in the water anymore that you get from the sea. So being by the sea, you're receiving all of the minerals, like the natural minerals, which we're meant to receive. That's a part of us as well. So that's kind of an interesting one I find with water. And some of my work goes into, you know, I have the codes or these mandalas, and then I put that, print them out, and then putting water on them on top, you know, sealed, but it just helps to allow that emanation of the energy to go into the water, and that's my intention. So it actually creates, people can do this themselves, you know, they're really capable of also doing that. You know, you can easily create a symbol or something that you want to set an intention to and visualize that, or like you say, just holding energy, holding your energy hands and moving that energy into your water to change its frequency. And then you can tune that and you're drinking it, and then that's going into your system as well, and then that's alchemizing into your own waters. Or you can even just putting your hands and visualizing that the water you don't necessarily need to use
in psychology and in psychology and science, they know they've done. I won't go into that side of it because we're running out of time. But in psychology, they know that our brain cannot tell the difference between what we imagine and what is real. And you know, and so, you know, if you focus on things, you're making it real for you. It becomes real for you. And very quickly, there's a Russian scientist that did experiments with frogs' eggs and I can't remember, salamander eggs and the frogs' eggs, and they had a salamander egg, and I think it was frog DNA in two separate containers. And so in one container was frog DNA and had salamander eggs, and they shone laser light through the frog DNA into the salamander egg, and when the salamander egg opened up, it was a frog. And so So light, they know in science already that light actually transcends DNA, that DNA information can literally pass through light into other things. So you can recreate, this whole idea of, like, the butterfly turning, I'm sorry, the caterpillar turning into the butterfly. It's all about transformation. Everything can transform. And yet you can be, and I've known Tai Chi and Qigong practitioners that people, one of the students was smoking, and people like some of the other people there were, oh, that's terrible, bad smoking. And the Sifu picks up the cigarette, and people, what are you doing? Well, there was this great Qigong woman who started smoking at the age of about 18. She died at 106. She smoked 60 a day, and she was known all over China, always having a fag in her mouth. And she said, when I die, I want you to do an autopsy. And they did an autopsy, and the surgeon said, this isn't the same woman. I said, well, what do you mean? Why? Her lungs, there is no damage from lungs. This can't be Lei Ling. This can't be her, because she smoked all her life. She smoked 60 cigarettes every single day. There's no doubt. This does not make sense. And it's one of the medical X-files that, she totally changed the reality. And that's what a lot of like Sifus and teachers do. There is no good or bad. You can change the reality. You could be in the middle of the city, but if you, in your mind, focus on the countryside or the ocean, that's where you'll be. That's where your energy is.
Yeah, which is why, like, so many people, like what we're going through right now, if we all hold these intentions and these visualizations, we have the ability to actually make those changes and transformations for humanity as a whole. Like, we actually could do that, and I think we are doing it. I get a feeling that that's what's happening. A lot of people are making those changes and transitioning into a healthier mindset and visualizing outcomes that are actually assisting humanity and bringing us back into harmony.
100%. Yeah, again, there's another tangent I could like. There's FBI case studies proving that groups of people can change reality. And they're over 20 years old, those case studies. But unfortunately, we've run out of time. So before we have to close down, is there anything, any last thoughts, anything you'd like to say before you wrap up? And also, how can people get hold of you as well?
Of course, thank you. I mean, I'd love to just maybe share a quick little bit of maybe some light language sound transmission for people. But yeah, if you are looking to find out more about what I do, I have a nice little quiz on my Instagram page. So do go on there, and you can go and listen to some more meditations, because you get gifted some meditations through that. And then there's all my artworks on there as well, so you can have a look at what I've been creating for other people and for the collective. And just DM me, message me. I'm always happy to talk and have conversations with people, so we can actually understand what it is intuitively that you need and what you're wanting guidance in. So yeah, if you want to just come into your heart space, and if it feels for your highest and greatest good, of course, just be open to receiving. But know that if it's not for you in this now moment, that you can just be in observation and awareness and see what this experience is, and see what this experience is leading you to. Ontaria shantu kontaria mashontore mira tatayarono musun irana maria katera ashanor ishana maria kira ashanar untoro ishana maria kantaria shonum ira maria ikir ukut urkt at ar ush an ar am on or ish anamar eakir us untor ish bor iambau yash ambawe shana eakiaus. Just breathing in and just allowing yourself to really feel that breath, visualizing the breath moving down and through all of your body into all of your being, feeling grounded and stable, and just integrating with harmony and balance and feeling the inner peace washing over you. Thank you.
Welcome. Well, I definitely would love you to come on again. You know, please. I think, you know, there's so much more we could talk about. I'd love to just do like a way of conscious mindfulness on light language and just do one on that as well. So please look up again. It'll be awesome. And where are you at the moment then, if I may ask?
So I live in Kent. I live in somewhere called Crayford, which isn't a very beautiful surroundings and everything, but yeah, I'm in a process of moving. So I was looking to move to Wales potentially, and now actually it's looking more like Mexico, but we're just allowing it all to flow. I gotta just say, I just saw someone called Dragon Rose, and I love that that person was here.
Wales to Mexico. I think you turn left somewhere, you know.
It was like hot country, and mountains as well. So again, before we go, I know you've got to go, but I'm just going to show you. I haven't finished it, but this isn't finished, I'm afraid. But it is in the process of one of the mountains that presented its energy to me. Again, this is my filter, and this is what I observed. This mountain being. Breathing in, breathing out, these sacred geometric patterns to me. Of course, it was actually way more complex than this. My drawing skills are not fit for my real visions and what I actually see. But in energy, I just see them breathing out these beautiful geometric patterns and these amazing colors, and they all love themselves and they breathe it out like all this. Pleasure, it's like pleasure and love and joy that they have for their very being. And I feel that when we come into nature, we actually start to experience that as well for ourselves, that we love our very being. We just breathe that love out. It's like a breath. It really is a breath. And yeah, so I just wanted to share that with you guys, because
you've definitely got to come on the show again, because I want to see more of that, and for sure. I actually know my next guest, Luna. She's actually in the audience watching this one, so I'll close this one up and then we'll do your one.
Yeah,
but
cool.
Yeah, this has been so awesome. Thank you so much. You are that is amazing. You are amazing, and like I say, definitely want to do another one for sure. So, yeah. Guys, I hope you enjoyed the show. We are literally, within about a few minutes, going to do another one. So Luna's already waiting to come on. So I will close this one up. So thank you so much, Georgia. It's been amazing talking. I want to do this again. So how many times have I said that now? Let's do it one more time. I want to do this again. So it's yes. So thank you so much. And guys, look her up on Instagram. You'll find her. And
Cosmic Heart Space.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, just say it.
Just you know, mention the important stuff, girl. Please do. So yeah, cool. So
thank you again, and enjoy your next show. Bye.
All right, bye all. So until next time, for this one, it's love, chi, and Chen. And remember, open your mind to the way, the conscious way, the way of conscious mindfulness. Bye for now.